Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to talk all about how to write newsletter content that sells without sounding salesy, but also how to make sure you know what to write so that you're not staring at the blank screen, or worse yet, procrastinating on not writing emails because you don't know what to write about and you're not sure if it'll land. So, this episode is going to help that. But before I dive in, I want to share just some basic metrics or benchmarks that you can use to really analyze to see if your emails are working. So we're going to cover ROI, the average open rate, and the click-through rate. And again, these vary depending on your industry and the size of your list. And so email marketing is so important because research studies show that for every dollar invested, marketers earn an average of $36 back. That is huge. And for many of my clients, this is so true. And if you just started building your list, sometimes, people have seen that from the time someone comes on the list till the time they buy, it can take up to 4 months for them to convert. So they're constantly building their list so they always have someone at that 4-month mark that is converting. There's others that buy within the first few days, or if they're doing a launch. So it's really important to know that you're not always going to, depending on what you're doing, how you're selling, who you're marketing to, either you can make sales right away, or you might have to nurture your audience for a couple of months before they're ready to say yes. But know that people are watching, people are following, even those who don't ever click through or comment or engage with you. They might just be reading and kind of those silent people in the back that finally raise their hand and say, yes, I want to work with you. So then the average open rate. The average open rate in 2024 was 37 to 40%. But a good open rate is generally considered to be anything above 30%. And again, it varies depending on the industry, the email type, and also the size of your list. The smaller your list is, the higher you want your open rate to be. And of course, as your list size increases, I still like to see it above 40%, but know that sometimes it does decrease if your list is drastically increasing. Then a good email click-through rate falls between 2 and 4% with an average around 2%. So anything above a 2% click rate is good, but there's a caveat to that. If you have things to click in your email that people want to click through, your click-through rate's going to be higher. If you're not including anything for them to click, then it's going to naturally be lower. Okay. So let's get into it. Something that comes up all the time when I'm working with clients or chatting with other coaches and creators is that they know they're supposed to be emailing their list, but every time they sit down to write, it's either, I don't know what to write about, I feel like I'm being too pushy, am I actually connecting, or am I annoying people, or nobody's engaging, or everybody's engaging, but they're not making the same. So if you've felt these things too, know that so have a lot of other people. And the truth is that if it feels off to you, it's not likely going to connect. And so I'm just going to share some super simple shifts that you can make that will help your newsletters not only sell better, but feel more natural, more aligned, and like you're showing up in a way that works for you, that feels good to you. And naturally, sales will come after. Sales will follow. So if you've built an audience, even a small one, you don't have to have thousands of people on your list to sell. Even if you have a small list, if you're connecting with the people in the right way, you will make more sales. So whether you're bringing your subscribers from YouTube into your community, from referrals, if you're doing list building, however you're building your list, or you're in that stage of growth where you're building a group program, you have an evergreen offer like a membership, a community, a mastermind that you want to continue promoting, this is for you. Because you want your emails to feel like an extension of how you coach, how you lead, and how you really show up. So if you're tired of feeling like your options are either information overload or sales robot. I get it. We're going to fix it. And I'm going to give you some insights to help. So a lot of times I see emails fall into one of two different camps. They're either super educational or they're overly promotional. There's no trust, and it's all pitch, or there's tons of free education, but no connection and no call to action. And so when you send emails like that, when you're constantly giving free, you're going to attract the people who only want free education, not the buyers. And so your audience really what they want is to feel understood, inspired, challenged, seen, and to know what is going to solve the problem I'm actively trying to solve. And that's what we're going to do in your email. They want someone who doesn't just talk to them, but doesn't just talk at them, but talks to them, that has a conversation. That sounds like, oh my gosh, she gets me. This is what I need. That is the sweet spot. That's the energy we're going to bring into your emails. So, because this is me, I'm going to back this up with some research. And there are a few reasons why what I'm going to teach you works so well. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about cognitive fluency. Basically, our brains are wired to trust what feels familiar and easy to process. So we're breaking down those complex ideas, complex topics into simple, relatable language that our ideal clients are using. And when you write in a way that mirrors what your audience is already thinking or feeling, it creates this instant, oh yes, I trust this kind of. Then there's the reciprocity principle, where we're more likely to take action when we feel like we've received something first. So when your email actually helps them, again, not even if it's just all free education or free tips, it can still help them even in a small way by shifting a perspective. They're more likely to open the next one or click the link or buy the thing. And finally, emotional connection drives behavior. People think they make decisions based on logic, but science tells us it's actually emotion first, logic second. And if you've been following me for any time at all, you'll know I will always say people don't make decisions based on logic alone. They make them based on emotion. And so more we can pull emotion into our messaging and our copy, the stronger it is going to be. And that's why those I feel so seen emails are converting better than any high pressure pitch out there. Okay, so what do we do with that? Here's the core shift I want you to make. Instead of thinking of your email newsletter as a way to sell, to make offers, which it is, we're thinking about it in a way to create those aha moments. That's it. Every time you send an email, your goal isn't to teach more or push harder, but it's to help your reader see something different. Think something differently about their problem, their possibility, or their next step. We have to have a shift in their thinking to create that aha moment. Because when someone's thinking shifts, their behavior also follows. And when you do that consistently, sales start to happen. So we're going to break this down into a structure that makes it really, really easy. The first thing with your emails, the subject line has to hit, okay? If you do not have a good subject line, your email will not get open and they're not going to see all the gold information in there. So the subject line is one of the most read lines in an email because often people are skimming, but your subject line is so important. So the number one thing I say is to create a curiosity-driven subject line. Something that opens a loop and naturally makes them need to close the loop because as humans, we can't leave things open-ended. We want to close the loop. So if they can't get the full picture of what you're talking about from that subject line, they're naturally going to open it. So when you words like, this is the number one thing to get you to XYZ. Asking a question, but making sure it's not a yes or no question that they actually have to open the email to find out. Because if it's a no, like if it's a yes or no and they say no, they're going to scroll past and not open it. You want to make sure your emails are getting numbers in there, using personal, putting somebody's name in the subject line, anything that can grab their attention and stop the scroll. Just like on social media, people are scrolling through their inboxes because they likely have a lot of emails. And so your subject line has to stop that scroll. That's the number one, first, most important part. We have to make sure your emails are getting up. Then on the inside, I teach that you should talk about one main idea. Some newsletters have several different things and it works for some people, and that is great. It is not good, bad, indifferent. It's just different than the way that I do it. And I have seen really good things happen, more sales happen when we really talk about one core principle every time we write our email. So we're starting with a story, a hook, something that grabs their attention instantly. Again, just like the subject line, the hook also has to make them think, aha, I want to stick around and keep reading. Like a what comes next. Okay, so something like a thought, a moment, a story. What kind of hook could really get them to keep reading? Something like, I used to think if I just worked harder, I'd finally catch up. Until I realized I wasn't behind because I was lazy. I was behind because I was chasing the wrong goal. And then you go in. This creates connection. It lowers the wall, and maybe your reader will think, me too. I wonder what she did next, right? So that's the first thing. We're starting with that. Then we're going into what's that main idea. We're sharing the lesson or the aha. This is your insight. This is the shift. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily, we're not teaching them how to do XYZ. We're teaching them how to think differently about solving the problem. So productivity isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. And most of ours are avoiding that because it's uncomfortable. We're helping them reframe something they've been stuck in. We're shifting that perspective. So you can go into a little bit of detail about that. And then we're extending an invitation. So this doesn't always have to be straight to your offer. It can be to a blog post, a podcast episode, a YouTube video. But also it can be to your offer, your group program. So it's just the natural next step. Again, we want to get them to engage. So while we don't have to sell it every single email, we want them to engage with you in every single email. So whether you're asking them to reply and answer a question, click a link to, like I said, the blog post, podcast, whatever it might be, you want to train them to engage so that when you do make the pitch and you do make the sell, they're already ready to say yes. They're used to clicking into it and learning. Okay, so we're just giving them a path forward. An example, if you're ready to stop spinning in circles and actually build momentum in a way that works for you, I'd love to help you inside XYZ. Here's where to find the details. Even that could be stronger, but it's just making sure you're using the language your ideal clients are using. Okay, so now what do you write about every week? This is the part where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, cool, I get the structure, I have the hook, the main idea, this perspective shift, and the call to action. But what am I putting in? So there is a couple different ways that I teach this. I also have some really cool tools, Content Generator, which gives you 30 content ideas to use, all generated by ChatGPT. You enter in your ideal client, your voice, all the things, and it pops out these ideas for you. So you don't need to overthink it. You just need to get writing. And then I have another tool which actually writes these emails for you. So it writes emails for you in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes. I like to go back and forth a little bit, so it takes me longer. So I want to make sure it has my voice, my human connection, all of the things tied in. But this has cut time drastically in getting these emails out there. And if you're anything like me, consistency, I wouldn't say is my strongest. strong suit. So I am better when I batch emails to go out, or if I have this aha and I write and then I end up batching. But batching is better for me, and then I schedule things to go out, whether it's podcast episodes, blog posts, videos, emails, social content. All of that can stem from this content generator. And so I like to rotate between 5 different content types that connect and convert. And I'm going to give you those 5. So sharing a story. Stories create that emotional resonance. They help you connect with those. So the types of stories, client wins, those are huge because you're connecting, but you're also showing your expertise and how you helped these clients get the results that the audience on the other side of the screen also wants. That is huge for bringing in people. You can talk about mistakes that you made and how you came out on the other side, why you are the guide to get them to where they want, a belief you used to hold, a weird thing that happened that taught you something. I have 4 kids, so a lot of times my story is about my kids doing crazy things, and then it grounds me. It comes back to a business lesson. It's taking us back to simple, right? Whatever your story is, but that it's relating back to your people and how you are connecting with them and how you can help them. And then inspire. Inspiration is great. We don't want to have all inspiration posts because then we're not leading them anywhere. But inspiration can still be intertwined into that perspective shift, right? Everything doesn't need to be that how-to. People just need that hope they're on the right path. So inspiration could be a quote you love and why. And then including that perspective shift. A note to your past self. A reminder that slow progress is still progress. Perfection doesn't mean profitable. So we have inspiring. We're getting them to think differently about how they can solve that problem they're actively trying to solve. Mindset shift. A lot of these, I like the mindset shifts because they lead to some like, whoa moments, aha. You're flipping a belief on its head and you're guiding your reader to that new way of thinking. Then we educate and teach because yes, it's still important to give them value. It's just that we're not overly doing it on every single one. So this is where you get to show what you know, but through the lens of why it matters now. Again, always connecting back to all roads lead to work with you. So if 3 steps, a common mistake, a really short how-to video, an FAQ, anything that's educating or teaching your audience, but then again, showing them why it matters. You can also throw in there, if you're not doing these, what's the cost of staying stuck, right? And that's leading to your offer. Then we're sharing an insight. So this is where your thought leadership comes in. Something you're noticing in your industry. Maybe a quiet trend nobody's talking about, or something everybody's talking about, and you have kind of your own unique perspective that will cause a lot of reaction, good reaction, but that you're thinking differently about it. That's why you stand out. You have a unique angle, a unique idea about this trend. Or a deeper pattern you've seen with clients. It positions you as the person who thinks differently, and that's who people want to buy. Okay, so I've shared the 5, the share a story, inspire, mindset shift, educate or teach, and share an insight. And to make this ridiculously easy for you, I have put my content generator in the show notes for you to get your hands on if you want. Again, it gives you 30 content ideas, 5 per category that we just talked about, all customized to your niche, your audience, and your goals so that it can do the thinking for you. Again, I did an episode on how to find and use the ideal client's language. I get ideas for my content by pulling out things my ideal clients are saying, problems they're having, shifts they're having. Keep that on a note stack. So when you don't know what to say, you can come back to that doc and pick one line from there and write an email about it. You can go into ChatGPT and ask for what are some common myths that your industry has. And what do you believe to be true instead? Write about that. Again, myth busting, perspective shifting is really, really powerful. And the more that you can use that in your emails is going to be gold. I also have included the Profitable Email Pro, which is another tool for my AI studio that takes your offer, my framework that I just talked about, and it writes 8 nurture to sale emails for you in so fast. Like you can write 8 emails in a half hour, schedule them to go out over the next 8 weeks or 4 weeks if you do 2 a week, or if you do one every day. It saves so much time and it takes a lot of the thinking out for you. Again, where I want to make sure people are doing is we're not just copy and pasting, but we're making sure it sounds like us. And the more that you go back and forth with it, it will sound like you, but we still have to make sure it sounds like the way we talk to our clients, to our friends, to the people closest to us. Because now more than ever, we have to build that trust and we have to build that connection. And they're going to do it by being able to see you and experience you and feel you. So, final thoughts is just show up in your inbox like you do in real life. Empathy, clarity, and with something that helps people shift. Shift the way that they are thinking about the problem they're actively trying to solve. And that the next best step, the only option is you, to work with you. You are teaching them the what and the why, and you are the how to get to the result and the destination that they want to get to. Your words are so, so powerful, especially when they sound like you and they use the language, they use the words that your ideal client is using. So all you have to do is make sure that you are connecting, you're writing from the heart, you're writing what your ideal client wants to hear and what they're actively trying to solve. And that will help you sell more and again, take the pressure off of what in the heck do I write that is going to convert. All right, that's it for today, friends. I hope this gave you some clarity, some confidence around what to write in your newsletter. And if it helped, please feel free to comment below, ask some questions, come over, say hi to me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever you hang out, and check out the tools I mentioned. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.